going to learn about steak tartare. One of the 11 principles of the Wise Traditions diet is that all traditional people groups ate some of their animal products raw and some cooked. And I think the raw part like shocks people. But there's something in the food that it's good to keep alive and not cook, right? Talk to us about that a little bit.
So if you, from time to time, can eat something raw, like an oyster or a steak tartare, you get that extra energy.
Wow, and I guess traditional people knew this kind of instinctively, or they experienced it, right?
I think so, yeah. And, there are a lot of nutrients that are fat soluble. So today we're going to add to our steak tartare a little extra fat of olive oil and cheeses, which will help by way of their fat to help us digest the meat.
The thing is, it's a hot day, Tanya. And I don't know, maybe I was schooled in the wrong educational system, but they're like, don't put meat in the sun, it will spoil, it'll get rotten and you'll get sick. Is that a legitimate fear?
Well, there is a lot of fear going around about germs. That's true. And it's kind of been instilled into us. But, when it comes to steak tartare that you get from a butcher or a chef or a farmer, they are very careful about their hygiene principles. And for steak tartare, it's usually a piece of filet, which is tenderloin, and it's inside. So there's no kind of outside germ force that's, ruining the meat. And if it's a well-raised, cow, grass-fed, healthy, no hormones and antibiotics, then you've got a good piece of meat that's not crawling with worms. That's fresh and healthy and good for you. And that's what you get from the butcher. And so today we'll have a look at that. We are going to talk about the ingredients. So we've got the meat. So this is the filet. They've already
I'll do a
tied
close
it.
up here.
They've already tied it up like a tenderloin. Okay, we've got some onion, got an avocado, some chives, some cheese, Parmesan. You can also use, here let's test my Italian, grana padano, Parmigiano Reggiano, or Pecorino Romano. So any of those. So this one is just the Parmigiano Reggiano.
Bene, molto bene.
Molto bene. Mucho gusto. That's Spanish.
That's awesome, though.
Okay, and then we also have some goat cheese. Okay, and some salt, pepper. Okay, so and I'll go over. Oh, we also have the olive oil.
Okay.
So we'll go over how we're going to do this. So I would say let's just start. We're going to cut things very fine, and so we'll start with the onion and we'll kind of finish up with the meat. So we're going to do this recipe for 2 people.
Okay.
As if it were for 2 people. So for 2 people, I would say, maybe actually not even a half, but a quarter, roughly, of a red onion. These onions are huge. So I'm just going to put this over there, and I'm going to show you. We're going to have first some knife skills. Okay. It's not actually sharpening the knife, it's honing the knife.
Okay.
So we're just going to put it down and do sort of a 45-degree angle and go down like that. Very gently.
So it's not sharpening the knife. Explain the honing thing to me.
Well, the honing, so you've got an edge, right, of the knife, but after much use, it kind of splits. So basically, you're kind of flattening that split.
Putting it back together in a way.
Putting it back together.
Okay.
It's kind of at a micro level, but anyway. So butchers always sharpen their knives before they cut it.
Or hone their knives.
Well, right, and they hone their knives. That's true, and they sharpen them quite frequently. Using a wheel or something. So also we need to have a little bowl for our déchets, as they say in French, for our little garbage. I'll put that over there.
Organic garbage. Yeah, that's great.
So, I'll say that you want to cut the onion sort of from north to south like that, so that you get a half like this, because this thing is going to hold it all together, this little nub. And so I had already peeled it a little bit, and I cut off this end part, and then you want to just kind of, the thing about steak tartare is that you want small pieces. I'm going to cut this whole half, and then we probably won't use it all. So, and then we're going to make 2 incisions like this, too. That just makes finer pieces like that. And the smaller you cut it, kind of the more the whole dish melts in your mouth. And this same thing goes for the meat. We can throw this into the soup, actually.
And this size, is that called minced?
Yes, this is maybe a little bit bigger even than minced. Minced is, then you kind of like that. So we're not going to need all of this, but we'll use some of it.
Okay.
So let's put this over there. Okay.
Notice how helpful I'm being right now. Just moving that over there.
So we need to do the avocado. So what I do,
Wait,
go ahead.
Do all recipes include avocado?
No, and that's a great question.
Okay.
So avocado is trendy, it's yummy, it gives an element of fat again, just like we were talking about before. It adds flavor and body. So, and you can, as I mentioned with the cheeses, you can pick any kind of cheese, well, hard cheese. You could even do, Swiss cheeses or something like that, depending on the flavor.
You might be wishing you had some fat and creaminess. So you're adding these things to give it that umami thing.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
And it's a matter of taste. And really the traditional steak tartare was really mostly just onion or shallot and the meat.
Okay.
And then maybe a rye egg on top. And then people would mix that together on their own once it's been served. So these are kind of added benefits.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we're just going to make, again, small pieces. We'll move it over a little bit. You can use 1 avocado for 2 people, I would say. Okay, so we'll do this again. Do you want to try to cut it like the way I did? We would eat this maybe once a week. And speaking of that,
I get the idea, though. You were doing cross and then like that. Okay. What were you going to say, though?
Oh, yeah, in terms of cost. The filet is the most important piece, or let's say not important piece, the most sought after, the tenderloin. It's the leanest. That's why we add all the fat.
Right.
But it's also the most tender and therefore the most expensive.
I see.
But this, with the meat, it comes out to, maybe $8 to $10 or $12 a person.
Oh my gosh, and so all I can think of is when people go out to eat or grab a pizza, it's actually more expensive.
Absolutely.
Oh, what a sad choice we're making a lot of the time.
You can support a farmer by buying grass-fed beef. You can eat it raw and spend less money. It's amazing. So here we have the piece.
And again, this is filet.
This is filet mignon.
Mignon means cute in French.
Yes.
Je suis mignon.
Let's get that.
Un petit peu. Toi aussi.
Moi aussi. Yes. Okay, I'm going to use my favorite knife here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to first kind of slice it into smaller kind of, cubes, slices.
And when was the first time that you made steak tartare?
Well, I actually made heart tartare the first time. Yeah, with my Basque butcher friend with whom I apprenticed in Bordeaux. And we used a lot of citrus. I think we put in lemon, some lime, some orange, you know?
I love
and,
citrus.
And that cooks, it kind of in a way cooks the meat as well. It gives flavor and zest.
Like
So-
when you have ceviche, the fish is cooked by the lemon juice.
Yes,
so.
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And the salt.
Mhm.
Okay, so now I have little strips. It's nice to get them narrow as possible. So, and then you want to keep your fingers out of the way. I mean, the best way is to keep them kind of glued to the blade. That takes practice, and I'm not that great at it. But and then you're supposed to have your wrist do the work, and you're supposed to hide your thumb.
Mhm.
I'm going to cut that. Okay, so and the finer the, you know, kind of the little cubes, the mince, the more it kind of melts in your mouth as a dish. So it's not one of these dishes where you need to do a lot of chewing, which makes it perhaps more palatable to people, you know? And adding all of these ingredients also makes it more palatable to people.
It reminds me of when we made pate and we added mushrooms. And
Yeah.
the more mushrooms you put in, the more easy it is to transition into organ meat in your diet, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right. And the onions and garlic, sometimes the little bit of alcohol for flavor and fun.
So you can make steak tartare with other cuts of meat. Is that what I hear you saying? Or you can eat raw other cuts of meat.
You can, as long as they're hygienically, you know, prepared by the butcher. They're going to be probably tougher, but you know, if you look at the Hadza or other traditional tribes, they would hunt an animal and eat the liver and drink the blood fresh.
Right away. I know, because
That's-
I've been with Kenyans as well, Maasai, who did the same thing.
It's so, you know, I think you could, but they tend to use steak tartare because it's so melt in your mouth.
Okay.
Really, it's the texture. And you can see it's a little bit marbled with fat there. But overall, it's a very lean meat again. So then you don't have kind of fat getting in the way of your chewing, though I think that actually is a healthy way to eat meat, is right off the bone or when it's fatty, right? So this is, of course, a delicacy to have every now and then, but we do want to add enough fat to make it, you know, nutritious as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We definitely want the fat with the protein. And some people like lean meats. It's not anything that the foundation recommends.
No, and it doesn't leave you as satisfied. And then you go and look for your chips and crunchy things. All right, so I'm by no means a professional, you know, knife skilled person, but anyway, there you go. And we can still...
I give you a 10. I think that's amazing. That's why I'm watching and letting her do it, because she's got more knife skills than I do.
Okay, so then you can kind of mash it up a little bit. That's why you want a sharp knife. A honed, sharpened knife. Okay, so we'll start.
Okay, so we've got the meat all chopped up. The avocado is prepared as well. What's next?
Okay, well, why don't we start putting things into the bowl, and we'll talk about the quantities.
Okay.
So we've got about a 1/4 pound of meat per person. Okay, and this is 1/2 pound. And about 1 avocado, right? Half an avocado per person. So we'll put that in. And notice I'm using the blunt end to scrape things up. You don't want to use the sharp end because then you dull your blade.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's a trick I learned from the butchers. Okay, and now we've got I think we'll use, like I said, just about a quarter of an onion.
Perfect.
So half of it cut. And you want to have about, let's say, 2 pinches of salt, 1 per person. And we've got the goat cheese, which I think we should just mash up a little bit.
How much of the goat cheese is that?
And the goat cheese is about This is about 4 ounces. So the logs that I buy are usually about 10 ounces, and some of them are smaller.
I've seen the smaller ones.
You can just use one of those. Okay, so this in the heat, it's getting a little softer. So we'll just put all that in. That's 4 ounces, like I said. Okay, and we want some pepper. That, just, you know, a few rounds of pepper.
It looks so good already.
And then we've got our Parmigiano Reggiano. And that's about an ounce.
Okay.
Okay. And I used my handy dandy grater on the fine, the sort of, not the finest, but this sort of small holes. And I'll need the olive oil. And, you know, a tablespoon or 2, something like that. Okay. Also, one thing that's very helpful to have is a scale. So they come in different sizes, and you can, you know, it just helps you with the ounce or the, you know, it just helps a lot. I use them all the time. Okay, so let's mix it. Would you like to mix?
I would. Okay, I'm stirring away here.
Just gently, so we don't crush the avocado.
Oh.
And actually, you could put that in last, probably.
Okay, okay.
But
It
it'll all
smells
get
so fresh.
Oh, it's so refreshing, especially on a hot day like today. So, yeah, this will be very refreshing to eat.
Tania, what would you say to someone though who's like, "Oh, you're crazy. I would never eat raw meat." How would you, besides giving them a taste, possibly persuade them that it's a good idea to give it a try?
Well, you know, so many cultures, as we talked about, eat, you know, raw foods and raw meat, and the French have done it for ages. So I just would say, try to conquer your fear. In this case, the benefits, I think, outweigh the risk by manyfold. And it's so, you know, then you feel like it kind of opens up a whole world for you. So if you're willing to be adventurous and jump in, I think it's a great way.
All right, why don't you jump in and do anything I didn't do?
Okay. Just lift it up a little bit.
Okay, okay.
You want to kind of make sure it's evenly dispersed. I think we got all our ingredients.
Okay, so I have a question that goes the other way. What would you say to someone who's like, I just eat all of my meat raw? Are they missing anything because they're not cooking any of it?
Well, you know, I think there is something to cooking meat as well, to eating cooked meat, especially ones like pork, where the risk is a little bit higher, even chicken. So I would say, you know, balance it out a little bit.
Mix it up. That's what traditional people
mix it
do
up.
too.
And I think the nutrients vary. So you might get less B6 here, but you might get more of something else with a cooked. Also, for a lot of people, cooked meat is easier to digest. Though this, to me, is quite easy to digest. Steak tartare. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Now, what about these little chives sitting here?
Those are decoration for the end.
Oh,
I'll show
okay.
you.
Okay.
All right. So let's put this here, and I'll show you how I plate it. All right, so these are fun toys to work with. It just gives it some shape.
Oh, okay.
So what we're going to do...
I might have something like this at home that looks like a Santa or something.
That's
like
right,
a
you could
cookie
do
cutter.
a Santa. That's right, it is basically a cookie cutter. I don't even know what they call them.
So just something to hold it together. I get the idea.
That's right. Okay, so we're just kind of putting some in there, squishing it down just a little bit. This. Okay. Looks pretty good.
Looks
Right?
great.
Okay. And then,
Voila.
voila. And then we want to put in a little, you know, a couple of these guys. And you can cut some chives over it to make it look pretty. And they end up, when you cut them like this, they end up flying all over the place, but it's artsy.
Yeah, I like it.
There we go. And we can also pepper, salt on top.
Never hurt.
There we are.
So, how can you eat this? Just straight, obviously? Should we have it? Are there other ways too?
Well, it's so refreshing to me, and I don't eat much bread. So I would just eat it like this.
Okay.
But you can, like sourdough bread, for example, you could add some of that. You could have some over here on the table.
Perfect.
And some butter. And you could just have a little toasted piece, some butter, and enjoy the contrast of the melt in your mouth with the crunch in your mouth.
Bon appétit, mes amis.
Merci.
À toi. This is going to be great.